Welcome back to the Ashdown live sessions. How's everybody doing? Saturday afternoon here in London, 3 o'clock. I hope you're all ready to go. That reminded me of Live Aid just then. It's 3 o'clock. It's Wembley Stadium. That's good. I hope you're all well. I hope everyone's really good and still with me. Just have a little look at the conversations. See, as soon as I see some names pop up, I'll be ready to plow on with third session for today's live stuff, which is it's getting on now, isn't it? The first two lessons that we did today have been absolutely brilliant. They've been all focused at developing sort of the foundational aspects of playing the bass guitar, but they are all here basically to say thank you. If you've been following Ashdown Engineering social media feed over the last couple of weeks, you will be aware of a couple of very cool things. The first thing is the Nhs Fest. Now, Mark Gooday and Dan and the rest of the team put together a wonderful raffle last weekend to raise money for the NHS and to help, which is crippling the country and most of the world at the moment. But in order to help and play their part, Ashdown Engineering raised an absolutely whopping £160,000, which is just incredible. So the amount of people that are out there that have contributed to this wonderful pot of money that we can now donate and make some difference in this world. We then said, well, look, let's do something really cool for you guys. And do a whole weekend, a marathon weekend of completely free bass tuition. And that's what I'm here for. So you guys might know me from Scott's Bass Lessons. So I'm one of the teachers on there. But there's also a few other places. I teach for a bass guitar magazine, bass player magazine. So I write for most of those. I have an intermediate techniques column in there. I do some reviews. Actually, funny enough, I've just recently reviewed the new Ashdown bass guitars. So they got some jazz basses and P basses and that stuff coming out. They were wicked. They were such good value for money. I think that's going to be published actually in one of the next couple of issues. So keep your eyes out for Bass Player and Bass Guitar magazine if you follow Ashdown, because they've got the announcement of their instruments that were designed by Dan Lankin, who was obviously from Lakeland. So he's been contributing to the design work. Once again, Mark Gooday and that lot have done a fantastic job. And yeah, so I then said, well, let me come and teach on the Ashdown page and then do this, like I said, do this marathon bass weekend. So why Ashdown? Well, Ashdown's got this very strange little link with me, and that is that when I came out of college, they were the very first company that gave me an endorsement. Well, Mark was, but it wasn't Ashdown. It was his predecessor company, which was Trace Elliott. I was touring most of Europe with a U2 tribute band when I was about 19 years old, and that was I was using the old Trace Elliott V-types on it, and they all came from Mark Gooday, who is now the guy that's putting all this on for you today. So, guys, show some love, man. Tilt the cap to the Ashdown team, firstly for putting this on, second of all for raising £160,000. Absolutely amazing for the NHS, and hopefully we can carry on doing stuff like this in the future, carry on doing good things. So where are we? Where's the weekend at? Well, we're at the third lesson already. The third lesson today is flying past. Of this weekend, we got four sessions today, 4 sessions tomorrow. So 75% done. Let's start joining all the dots and seeing what all these lessons are actually doing. Because the idea is if you watch these lessons in order, they kind of all relate to one another and they become one course. That's what I'm kind of hoping. In our first session, we did scales as formulas. Now, what scales as formulas was the idea that when you get on your bass guitar, it's very, very simple to just sit there and play shapes. Tried and tested shapes that you've done a million times. And unfortunately, what this does is it does limit your vocabulary a little bit. And if your vocabulary is limited, it's not going to be great for things like inspiration to then for you to go and write new bass grooves and just want to play your bass. That's actually something that a lot of people need to do. They just need to actually be inspired enough to want to do some practice in the first place. So the first thing that I did is I said, let's take that scale, but let's stop looking at it as a pattern. And for this one lesson, I want you to 100% think of that scale as nothing more than a series of tones and semitones. Okay, so it's tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Now, the reason we did this is that it allows us to view that scale in many different places all over the guitar. There's the same scale on one string, or there's the same scale over two strings. There's it in the perpendicular over three strings, and don't forget, there's it from C down to a low E, back up to the C. Okay, now, the idea being is that rather than just looking at the scale, you're going to look at it and go, it's actually a big old world. There's a lot of places I can go with it. And the big thing that I was trying to do was to try and minimize the blind spots on the bass. Now, when guys play perpendicular to the nut, which means across the fretboard in a line with it, so this is perpendicular, okay? They kind of neglect this bit of the bass, don't they? You know what I'm saying? You play a shape here, and you know it appears here as well. And then what's this bit? Because I don't know. Something's got to happen here. So then the natural thing is people then start studying 2 octave scales. So they play a 2 octave scale. And then when they start playing that, they then go, hang on, I've got my 2 octaves. But now I've kind of played diagonally across the guitar, if that makes sense. So you've gone from a low G to a high G. And this lower register here has now been neglected. So what I was going to do to compensate that is to make you think in formulas along one string, and it kind of fills in that grey area a little bit. That's the thing. And we're just trying to get you to look at the scale kind of linearly as opposed to just as a pattern that's perpendicular to the nut. So that's one of the big things that we're aiming towards. That was in the first session. In that first session, one of the big things that you need to be aware of was that formula. Do you remember the formula? The formula was tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, or whole step, half step, whole step, sorry, whole, half, whole, half, yeah? If you're doing the Americanisms. But I'm doing tones and semitones, so get used to it. Now, right, so it's good. Now, those tones and semitones, it goes round and round and round on the bass. That's going to coincide with this session, which is now going to be on pentatonic scales. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and get used to that. But before we do that, we then went into the second session. This was lesson number 2. And lesson number 2 was referring back to that major scale. And we said, look, if we play this major, God, my brain's gone to sleep. If we play this major scale, off of each diatonic step of that scale, you can in fact play a triad. Now, yes, you can play 7th chords, but that was not the purpose of that lesson. That lesson was just focusing on triads. So we said that 1, 4, and 5, the first step, 4th, and the 5th step, were all major triads. The 2nd, 3rd, and 6th were all minor triads, and the 7th, that's down an octave, there's the 7th, was diminished. That gave us these family of triads. This is really great information to know, because this information is what coincides with what's referred to as the Nashville numbering system. Now, that thing gets used if you turn up on a gig and people just shout changes out. If you don't know the song, then you find out, you can find out what the changes are by the guitarist or the singer or someone just going, yeah, it's 251, so 1645. Actually, I've got a bit of an embarrassing story, which I don't mind telling you about. I worked with Van Morrison a couple of months back here in London, and I remember playing Into the Mystic with him. This was that sort of vibe, right? And he so the arrangement changed, and I didn't have my ears on. And I just remember hearing Van's voice scream at me from across the stage, play the 5 chord, play the 5 chord. So straight away, Nashville numbering system. Van assumed, because I might not have known, but he assumed that he knew I was in E flat. I would know that I needed to go to the 5 chord and play that B flat, okay, which is kind of handy, but it's a good example of how musicians snap judgment and be able to communicate with one another, but they do that by things such as the Nashville numbering system, okay, which uses Roman numerals to that's the slip of the tongue just then. It uses Roman numerals to identify them. So if you know this order of triads, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, you can then, when you're given a chord progression such as 2, 5, 1, you can 2, 5, 1. You can transcend around the changes without actually getting lost or playing inappropriate notes, shall we call them. But those notes where you hit them and you go, oh, that was a bit of a clanger. So, which is, if you've ever played with me on stage, you know I'm good at doing that. Okay, so it's good. But yeah, the idea being is that you can just play notes that coincide with the chords that the harmonic guys are playing. Your bass lines are well chosen pitches. Okay, so we've done the formulas and we have then done the harmonization. So where do we go from here? And that is where we're starting. This is session 3 of 4 today on Saturday. And this is where we're going to talk about pentatonics. Now, if I said to you, okay, guys, what's a pentatonic scale? I guarantee you 90% of you will go, it's a 5-note scale. That is the absolute kind of default answer. Okay, so it's good. This isn't product placement, Ed, by the way. I'm not advertising Ernie Ball in it. I would never do things like that. I don't know. No, so it's good. No, but one of the things that we talk about is what was I talking about? I can't remember. Is tensions. So if we're going to start making a bass fill, or we're using a scale to make a bass line, we need to understand how it works. Okay, so let's talk about that formula that you've already spoke about. All right. Now, the formula was tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Right? That was it. Okay. Well, let me tell you about what those distances actually do, because this is quite, this is like when you go, oh, I get it. All right, that makes sense. If 2 notes are close together, they clash. Okay, they don't like being next door to each other. It creates tension. Okay, now I can demonstrate if I just play a major scale. Here's a major scale. Now I'm going to play the scale again, but this time I'm going to stop on a specific note. And when I do that, it's going to make us all feel like we're on edge. Okay, listen, here it is. Yeah, right. That's annoying. There it is. You're desperate for it to resolve, but it doesn't. Get up. There it is. Now you can do the same thing descending. Hello? There it is. Now they're tensions. That's happening because basically 2 notes are a semitone apart. Okay, so if we now, back to the no expenses spared piece of A4 paper. If I now go, here's my formula: tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Here's the major scale formula: tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Everyone's cool with that? All right. Where the semitones reside, okay, which is change of pen. I know, right? Professional. Now. Where the semitones reside, that creates tension. That's the key thing. That's because those notes that appear there are too close together, all right? So where are they in the major scale? Well, let's go back to our C major scale, okay? C to D is a tone. No semitone, all right? D to E is a tone. Still no semitone. E to F, there's the semitone. There's the first semitone. You can hear straight away there's a colour, there's an ambience being created that wasn't there. I was all happy, and now it's got a bit tense. Okay, carry on. Tone, tone, and then we get to this note, and once again, there's a semitone. So where the semitones are, it creates tension. Now watch, I'll show you. Here is C major chord, right? Now if I play this scale, semitone, right? You can hear it. Take it down a tiny bit. There we go. Clashes and then resolves. Clashes, resolves. Can you hear it? Oh. This is why sometimes you can be playing a major scale against a major chord, play a note, and then you go, why does that sound so bad? It sounds like it should be the right note because it's in the scale, right? But it creating tension, and it's because it needs to resolve. 4 to 3, 7 to 1. That's where those semitones are. So, some bright spark said, can we make a scale without those semitones? Just take them out like they don't exist. So there's our semitones. And I said, okay, let's get rid of that one. Let's get rid of that one. Okay, no semitones. D, E, C, D, and E. Taking out the F, C, D, E to G, C, D. You hear straight away the tension's been removed. So we've got C, D, E, G, A, and now take out the seventh, play the octave. You'll notice what I've done is where there's been two semitones, I've left the triad note and the other diatonic note's the one that's been omitted. Okay, so scale, take the semitones out, and you get that. You get this 5-note scale that has no tensions. So if I said to you guys the same question and I went, hi guys, what's a pentatonic scale? And 9 times out of 10, most people will go, it's 5-note scale. Okay, it's like a default answer, isn't it? But anyone that's been taught by me will go, it's a scale without the tensions. And I'm like, yeah, there we go. Have a listen to the difference. Here's a C major chord, all right? And now I'm going to play a C major scale. Okay, but now, I hope that freeze isn't too loud, guys. Here we go. Now, listen what happens when I take those tensions out again. Okay, so here is C major scale with the semitones. Hear it? Now I'm going to take those semitones out, and you can hear there's no tensions anymore. It's almost like you can't play a wrong note. You can use the wrong microphone, crikey. If that's an analogy, then what you can actually do is it's almost like you can't play a wrong note. So get a very pentatonic sound. Put the tensions back in. It's a very different beast, isn't it? You can really hear that even a major scale has an awful lot of texture in it. Take the semitones out. What's left? Pentatonic scale. If I pay attention, now it stands out like a sore thumb, doesn't it? It's like bang, tension. Okay, so we've learned from this process is that pentatonic scales, we can be a bit more educated than just calling them a 5-note scale, okay? Any scale that has a formula can be made into a type of pentatonic. In the case of a natural minor scale, you find the same formula for the major scale, just take out the semitones, but leave the notes that are triads in. That was our major scale, tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. And then what we did is we took out these semitones, there and there, okay? And then when we took those out, what we're left with is a 5-note scale that doesn't have any tensions in it. And that's really how you should think about a pentatonic. So I want to play a bass line, for instance, that doesn't tread on any toes. Say you're doing like a summer hit or something like that, where you just want it to be up, happy, and chirpy, then just write your bass line using pentatonics, because it's going to sound all happy. You can hear there, I'm moving around because I'm using these pentatonic modes, which is what we're about to start, excavating. If Mo Foster was watching right now, he'd be like, Philip, don't use that word excavating. It's one of my things. I say it purposely just to annoy him. But it's good. Now, sorry guys, excuse me. Right, so let's now start to address the pentatonic scale. Now, if we go back to our scale, well, let's do this in the key of G now, and you'll see why in a second, because there's some really cool shapes we can use. So the notes for G major scale are G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and it goes back to G, right? So there's our G major scale. And we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to play tone, tone, semitone is between the B and the C, tone, tone, and then there's a semitone between F sharp and G. So I'm going to take out 2 pitches. The 2 pitches are where the semitones are. So the first semitone appears here between B and C. So I'm going to chop that. I don't want to play a C. All right, that's gone. And then here, there's another semitone between F sharp and G, and I'm going to chop that as well. So the notes that we're left with, yeah, I know what you're thinking. This guy's got more highlighters than anything. Okay, sorry, it's the caffeine. What's left is 5 notes, which is G, A, B, D, E, and G. Now remember, these notes are nothing to do with register, okay? So, very quickly, let's take the first note of the G major scale. There's a G major scale. Here's the pentatonic. That's with the semitones removed. Now what we're going to do is we're going to play those pitches all over the bass. Okay, so how many places can you play a G on your bass? Okay, well I can play G here, 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 G here, G here, G here. I'm flash, I've got a G up here. Yeah, 24th fret. So that's an awful lot of Gs. I missed one. There it is. Oh, there's one there. Yeah. Okay, and there. Okay. So lots of little Gs that we can play. Now, same thing happens with A, which is the second note. You can play A here, here, here. You can play here, you can play here, 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 here. No, I can't bend it that high. But there's lots of places where you can play A's as well. So why would you just play that one little octave shape here, which is G to A, fret 3 to fret 5 on string 4, B to D on string 3, which is fret 2 to fret 5, and then fret 2 to fret 5 again on the second string, which is E to a high G. So G, A, B, D, E, G. Why would I only play those notes in that position when they appear everywhere? Well, this is where we can now go, actually, let's investigate some more things. And this is what gets referred to as the pentatonic modes. If you chop up the neck and replicate those same notes in portions, there are 5 key shapes and 5 key positions that you can use that cover the entire breadth of the instrument. So let's start in that first octave, which is what we were just doing a second ago, we played G, A, B, D, E, G. That was our first 5 notes. And that is a 1 octave major pentatonic. Now, obviously, there's minor pentatonics. Guess what? They're minor scales with the semitones taken out. But we're just talking about the major now, because we can understand the theory compared to a major scale. And now we're going to extend this, because we play G, A, B, D, E, G. Carry on. A, B. So now we've got essentially the 9th and the 10th, which is the 3rd up an octave and the 2nd up an octave, appearing on the top string 1. G, A, B, D, E, G, A, B. That is pentatonic mode, the first pentatonic mode. Now there's some cool textures. That we can create from this section, okay? Because you can play double stops, so you play the root note with the 10th at the same time, root note with the 9th at the same time, that's cool. Root note in the 6th, that's I like that one, sexy note, good. There is our first mode of the pentatonic. Now, let's create a groove, okay? Just using those notes. So I don't know, here's the G major chord, so we can hear it in context. There's a G major drone. Came out really bad, didn't it? Here it is. There you go. It's no better, but we'll try. Okay, right now. And then I can play the groove. Just using pentatonic. Okay, just using that first position pentatonic. Nothing else, just mucking around with that. Okay, well, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my hand into essentially the second position, second mode. It's going to be the same notes, okay, but the same way that the modes are created in the major scale, we're going to do the same thing with pentatonics. So, root position, kind of like a first inversion, if you will, yeah? So that's all good. Put your middle finger for me on A. That's A on fret 5 of string 4. Find that note for me now. Okay, now this is a cool position because it's pretty much the same pattern across the entire guitar. A, and then play B with your little finger, okay? So we've got A with your middle finger, B with your little finger, fret 5 to fret 7 on string 4. Now, I want you to do those 2 frets across almost the entire breadth of the instrument. A, B, next string, D to E. So that's 5, 7, 5, 7, if you want to go tab, all right? A, B, D, E. Now onto string 2, G, A. Nothing more than a major scale with the semitones removed. Okay, now the reason I asked you to play it with your middle finger is because when we get to the top of the scale here, you're going to play B at fret 4 on string 1 with your index finger. And that's going to allow your little finger to play fret 7, which is the high D. Once again, have a look at the notes, make sure that you can see how they're positioned on the bass and you know where they all are. There you go, that works for me, so that's good. Right, now, let's collate the 2 pieces of information. The first one was pentatonic mode number 1. Position number 1, I don't know, pattern number 1, there's a million ambiguous titles for it, is the first one. Okay, right, put your first finger on G and go G, A, B, D, E, G, A, B, okay? There is our pentatonic. Now, you can play this in a million ways. You can play it in groups of 4, descending and ascending. Okay, you can do it in groups of 3. There's, which is like stacks of 4. I think that was off the Stu Ham DVD, Pop, Slap and Tap and tickle and other sorts of weird names. But yeah, the old one from the 90s. I think he did that. I can't remember. It was something like that. Anyway, I remember studying it. I'll ask him. So there's that position 1. Now move to fret 5, and then we've got the A, B, D, E, G, A, B, and a high D. Now, do you notice there? Listen, it's a higher range now, so we've got a much bigger vocabulary. It's broader vocabulary, and we're down here. But it's still part of the same chord. So if I play a G major, here it is. There's our G major, ringing out in the background. I'm using an Electro-Harmonics freeze pedal to do that, guys. Might be something you want to invest in if you want to muck around with scales over chords. The way I voiced the chord here was I played the root note at fret 15, and then a 10th, which is the B, which is the major third, up an octave, and I duplicated the octave. So I got root octave third. That's giving me that major chord. There it is. You can hear it ringing out now with the freeze pedal. Now I can play down here. I play just position 1. That's cool. Now from here I can start to bring in position 2. Now do you notice that straight away, because of those little melodic shapes, those little boxes that I've got, there it is, it's going to allow me to do some cool little riffs here. So I can develop some nice motifs. So kind of like an old R&B groove. Loads of notes, okay? So you've got the root note is the G. I'm creating a groove from position 1, and then I'm doing like little bass fills in position 2. Here's it, same thing. This is my groove. I want to do a bass fill, position 2. I can't remember the groove. Got like a 3-second memory. Here's a fill. So you see how we're trying to interact between these two different things. Now, we've done position 1 and we've done position 2. So remember, G, A, B, D, E, G, A, B, all under the fingers here at fret 3 on string 4. Then move your hand up, your middle finger's on fret 5 now, A, play the same notes, but starting on A. 5 notes up and duplicate across the entire guitar. So now we've got A, B, D, E, G, A, B, and a high D. And that gives us position 2. Okay, right, now we're going to move on to position 3, guys. Starting to get a vertigo because we're getting higher and higher up the bass. First finger, move it now to B. Okay, B is fret 7 on string 4, or if you want to, your third dot. 1, 2, 3. Okay, yeah, and then you got a Warwick. I think Warwick's got a dot of fret 1 as well. But yeah, so you're on the fret 7, okay, which is our B. Now, this is where we start to see some cool little shapes that we can really use to make some nice melodic grooves and some sexy sounds. Okay, you're going to like this. Okay, so that's good. Now, first finger's on B. Now, your little finger plays a minor third perfectly on one string, which is fret 7 to fret 10, B to D. Okay. Now, you can use the same fingering and the same frets on the next string, which is E to G. So 7, 10, 7, 10. B, D, E, G. Now, straight away, you can see that it's just that, isn't it? In a different position. But now, it's going to allow us to get up to this high E. All right, and that's where we want to be aiming for. So, 7, 10, 7, 10. Next string, first finger's on fret 7 again, but this time it's an A. With your first finger on A, your ring finger plays B, A to B, and then D to E on the top string. Very, very user-friendly shape. B, D, E, G, A, B, D, and a high E. But you've got to remember, this is in conjunction with that note. So you're starting to get those textures. If I played it down here, it's right on top of the bass note. So you hear those textures. Position 2 does this. Hear the sounds? That's cool, isn't it? Now, position 3, you're going to get these pitches. You can see how we're getting into the upper vocabulary. We're starting to use, not extensions, but we're definitely in that sort of upper structure, okay? But the result is really lovely harmonic pitches. Now, if we go back to our groove, I've got no idea what I played a minute ago, but say it was that. Now I'm going to do a bass fill, but position 2. That's it. Now, did you notice that time I went into position 3? Same properties. The tensions have gone, so I can literally go nuts up here. And it's all going to work, okay? That's nice. We like it. Bring the chord back in. There's the chord. Do a little groove over it. See? There's my bass fill, position 2. Okay, position 3. Yeah. How about position 2 and 3? Yeah, that's nice. You can see how this is starting to come together. This is really, really great. So groove in position 1, fill in position 2. Groove in position 1, fill in position 3. You can see there's an exercise starting to be created here, can't you? You know what I'm going to ask you to do at the end of the session. But we're not finished. This was position 1. This was position 2. First finger down for position 3. Now we are getting into the gods, I'm afraid. Fret 10, please, guys. Put your middle finger on D. Fret 10 on string 4. Now remember, fret 12, double dot. Okay, so just go 12 minus 2, find fret 10. It's an easy way, nice landmark there. The other thing with a lot of bass guitars is if you look at the upper horn, the horn is normally in alignment, so it with fret 12. Okay, or close. I think some basses it might be different. On my basses it is. Here we are, D, fret 10. Find fret 10 for me, please. And then, hang on. I must learn to drink my coffee quicker, because by the time I get to the second half of the lesson, it's stone cold. It's horrible. Right, first finger on fret 10. Use my middle finger. Little finger then plays E at fret 12. Then we're going to go across to play the same frets again on the next string, which is on string 3, which is G to A. So we've gone D to E, G to A. Nice and easy under your fingertips. Now that allows our first finger to play B at fret 9. I do apologize. Fret 9 on string 2. 10, 12, 10, 12, fret 9. Okay, and your little finger can then reach D at fret 12 on string 2. Now, what's really great here is that last hand position you just did, the same fingering, is repeated on string 1. So now we go 9, 12 on string 1, which is a high E to a high G. Gives you that. Probably one of my favourite positions, actually. Gives you that sound. It's nice. It's good. Okay, right, so that's good. Now, obviously there's a bit of a distance here. So if you're doing a bass fill, you've got to really know how to get from one place to another, because otherwise you're going to get lost. Here is position 1. Here is position 2, 3, and 4. Finally, position 5. Position 5 starts on the 5th note of the pentatonic, G, A, B, D, that guy, E, okay? And we're going to play this at fret 12 on string 4, double dot. Okay, now, things about position 5. Position 5 is the minor pentatonic. It's actually exactly the same shape, okay? So this is where it lives, which is cool to know. Also, although we've got really high, like the root note's all the way back there, but I'm all the way up here for some reason, don't forget the lessons we learned from the very first session. Fret 12 is also open string. So that means the shape we're about to play, the minor pentatonic, can actually be played here as an open string. That's handy because you can start doing some cool little hammer offs using that pentatonic shape, and also using the formula stuff that we did to go behind the scale. So I'm in G, formula down to open E string, and then I've got all those little hammer-ons and stuff that I can execute using that open string position, which is the guitarist's favorite. Shall we? First finger at fret 12. Leave that index finger on fret 12. Little finger then plays fret 15. Okay, so you got 12 to 15, which is E to a G. E to a G, right? Then we got one shape that we play across the entire guitar. A, B, D, E, G, and A. Contact any one of your guitarist friends right now, and they will know this shape very well. I think they came out of the womb with it inherited in their system, so it's good. So yeah, E, G, A, B, D, E, G, A. It's basically going 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 14 on those top strings. That is the minor pentatonic. If you played position 1 and went position 1, position 2, position 3, position 4, position 5, that's the major pentatonic. But if you go position 5, position 1, 2, 3, 4, that's actually the minor pentatonic modes. So they're exactly the same shapes, they're just in different orders. Okay, so if I was in E minor, I could play E minor pentatonic and then move up and play G major, and then all the shapes accordingly. Okay, this does not help where we are with our bass line. So let's bring the chord back in. Here is the G major chord. All right, G major, I can hear it ringing out. Now straight away we can play position 1. Let's recap. The major scale has semitones. The semitones create tension. There they are. If you take the semitones out, you are left with 5 notes that have no tensions. When I say tensions, I mean notes that clash, okay? Obviously it's tension, it creates a vibe, but they're not notes that are going to get on your nerves and sound like bum notes if you play them live. There's a G major chord ringing out. I'm using the Electro Harmonics freeze pedal to do that. If anybody's interested, I'm not. It's boring. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play from here G major pentatonic in position 1. Then start in position 2 from A. Works, right? That note's a bit tense, but up there sounds great. Now position 3. Now position 4. You hear it all fits. And now finally position 5. Don't forget that is the minor pentatonic, which can also be played down an octave. A little bit tricky there because you're using open strings and fret 2s. But the country lads, they love that, okay? So it's all good. So what are we going to do in this next exercise? So this is the exercise. Guys, I would like you, in the key of G major, to write a bass groove. That's my groove. Now, when you feel like doing a bass fill, you're going to have to use each one of the positions. So there's my groove. Bass fill, position 2. Yeah. Now the second fill, I've got to do position 3. Now, the next time I do a fill, I'm going to use position 4. Yeah. Guess what? The last one we're going to do is position 5. Easy. What's really cool now is if you feel like it, you can start collating all of the informations. A couple of little chromatic pictures in there. Sorry, that's habitual. You can see now how I've been able to collate all of that vocabulary together to go groove, fill, groove, fill, groove, fill, groove, fill. Lots of fills. Hello. Right, sounds good. So this is what I'm going to ask you to do for the next hour. So we have one more session today. It's coming up to 4 o'clock now. It's time for me to have some lunch. And then we're going to be back online at 5 p.m. British summertime. So what are you going to do between now and then? Well, your task for lesson number 3 is the following. Please write me a bass groove in the key of G major, all right? And every time you do a bass fill, do it from a different pentatonic position, okay? Ram it all together, video yourself doing it, and then post it in the comments and share. Okay, that's what this is all about, guys. And I want to keep hammering this home because I don't think people get it. This is not some academic course where I'm beating principles into. I'm trying to give you good tuition, but this is all in good jest. We're trying to get together a great community to say thanks to everyone, bring everyone together in this time where everyone's under quite a lot of pressure and maybe in lockdown or that sort of stuff and not able to socialize as much. So this is a wonderful event to everyone just get some sort of community going. We can all chat to each other on the chat and say, oh man, I liked what you did on this groove. What shape was that? What notes did you play there? I don't know. We can get that sort of communal thing happening in the threads under all of these videos. So please, guys, I really, really mean this. Please contribute, okay? Get involved. Video yourselves. Hey, yeah, it's one of my Phil Mann grooves from Pentatonic, and then add it in the thread underneath, okay? And the great thing is that all these threads will be on the Ashdown page forevermore, so you can come back and watch them, and then, you know, post your video in a couple of days, whatever you want to do, okay? But do it because it's going to bring everyone together, and it's a little bit of light when everyone's probably feeling a little bit dark. Let's just remember why we're all here. Guys, Ashdown Engineering have done quite simply one of the most sensational things that I've seen from any British company in the music industry in the last couple of months. Last week, they held a raffle for Nhs Fest and have raised over £160,000 for our National Health Service. That is just an incredible achievement, one that the company should be incredibly proud of, and for all of us, we should be incredibly grateful for. So a big tilt of the hat. Thank you very much to Mark, Dan, and all the team at Ashdown. Ashdown have put up a B stock clearance. So if you want to contribute further to such a wonderful company and grab yourself a bargain, at the moment there's some great instruments on there. All the old, Trace Elliott design basses, Lone Star basses. I saw a status on there just recently. There's a Joe Osborne signature jazz Lakeland, which I want. It's amazing. Loads of meters, headphones, amps, cabs. It's all on the Ashdown B stock. Get on there, grab yourself a bargain. If you like what you're seeing today, come and support me. It'd be lovely to hear from you. I've got my own platform on Facebook and social media. It's called With Bass in Mind. Okay, you'll find it on Facebook. I put up lessons from Scott's Bass Lessons. I put up loads of intel from Bass Guitar Magazine, Bass Player Magazine. I put up all these sort of lessons all the time. And I also put up a transcription every week. This week, I put up Wolfpack. It was Deantown. Last week, I put up Joe Frazier. After this weekend, I'm going to do Ian Jury, Hit Me With Your Ribbon Stick. And that's because it came up in a lesson earlier on, because we were talking about how I've got a relationship with Ashdown. And it was because of my old teachers. My old teacher sorted me out of a little endorsement on my very first ever tour. And Mark Gooday helped me out when he was at Trace Elliott. He gave me a V-type amplifier for that. But that teacher, his very first lesson that I had, he taught me in jury. So I think I'm going to share that with you guys this weekend. So if you bounce over to the With Bass in Mind Facebook page, those transcriptions will be up there as well. Guys, I'm Phil Mann. We're going to have an hour off now. We've finished 10 minutes early, but that's okay. It's totally fine. You got more than enough information out of me. Go and write some bass lines. G major pentatonic. Do a bass fill in position 2. Then do a position 3, then 4, and then 5. See what you come up with. Once you've got it done, share it. Put it in the community, and then I'll be back. I'll be back in another hour. So an hour off now, guys. Go and get some break. Go and get some lunch. Play some bass. And I'll see you very soon. Guys, I'm Phil Mann, and I'll see you in a bit.